Okay, you guys go first.
70 cents.
70 cents. That's going to be for this side. And where's a student here? What? Let's get a woman because we have to. 65. And over on this side, the student? How much? 15. Okay, we got a good spread. Now, so how do you answer a question like that? Well, it turns out what you do is you break it down. So what are the things that we have to pay for to make a bottle of tea? The bottle. How much do you think the bottle costs? The bottle costs about, I'm going to write it here, bottle. Bottle costs about 11 cents. We buy it in a large volume, but that's about 11 cents. What else do we have to pay for to make that product? The label. How much do you think the label costs? Label costs about 1 cent. We buy millions of them, hundreds of millions of them. Okay, what else do we have to make the product? The cap. How much does the cap cost? 2 cents. What else? Labor. So labor, when we talk about labor, I'm going to use the word co-pack fee. And what that describes is the labor to oversee the bottling line, all the equipment, because what we do is we just pay by the case. So we don't pay directly the salaries of the people who work at the bottling plant, we just pay by the case. And so how much do you think the co-pack fee is per bottle? It's about 9 cents. Okay, keep going. You're missing some important parts of this product. The tea, thank you. Now, before I ask you how much it costs to make the tea, let's remember we're talking about organic, fair trade tea. You saw the tea gardens. It's easily, and I'm not bragging, just factually, it's easily within the top 10% of tea in the world. How much do you think, how much per bottle do you think we're spending for our tea?
39 cents.
It's about 4 cents. Now, that seems very little, but most companies spend 1/8 of that. So one of the insights Barry had was, look, if you're going to all this expense, why not put good tea in there? Why not spend, great tea? The difference between great tea and not great tea is, you can tell. Why not spend the money on that? Okay, there's still some other things that we need to put in this bottle. Sugar, and in this case, honey. Now, before you tell me how much we're spending, keep in mind that this product is basically 1/3 as sweet as all of the other bottled drinks out there, and we're using organic sugar and organic cane honey, organic sugar and organic honey. How much do you think? How much are we spending on our? I'm going to say honey and sugar per bottle. It's about 4 cents, which, by the way, is about as much as the other companies spend on their sweetener. It's just we use a lot less of it. So we can pay for better sweeteners. Anything else? Water. So the water is part of the co-pack fee. There's other things like glue and some other small minor ingredients that all come under the co-pack fee. Anything else, though? Transportation, freight. So that's actually a big cost. It works out to about 7 cents between the freight and the warehouse. Anything else? The marketing happens separately. Material, I think we've got in here. The only other thing I'm going to put in, there's a few other things. One is the tray, because the product comes in a tray. That costs about 1 cent. And there's something else just called shrinkage, which is, we buy 100 labels, but maybe only 99 of them make it onto the product. So I'll put that here. I'm going to add it here. OK, so you add it up 19, 20, 31, 39, 40 cents a bottle, 25. Oh, we have a dead tie. I only have one shirt. So the showdown here, the showdown is going to be how much do you think we charge between the two? So it costs us 40 cents to make. How much do you think we sell it for? And you get one guess. How much do you think we sell it for? We don't sell it to the consumer. We sell it to a distributor. $1, and the guess over here? 135. Okay, so we actually spend 77 cents, so you get the shirt. So just to help you, good job. just to help you see what it means. So we sell it to a distributor for about 77 cents. So that means we make 30 cents. And then the distributor sells it to the store for about $1. And then it goes to the consumer for about $1, anywhere from $1.59 to $1.49. So you can see we make the least amount of, we're not, the store makes more than we do per bottle. But if we do it right, everyone should be able to make some money. But that's the shorthand about how the business works. Okay, so you've been an entrepreneur. Let's talk more about the business. So what happened was Honest Tea was gaining traction. We started selling in natural food stores. We found a unique spot, and we got great feedback. Here's one that we got from a consumer. She went to our website, and she said, oh my gosh, I would beg to work at this company. I would move so I could work for your company. How responsible are you? That is just so everything. I wish you did everything. I wish you did my banking. I wish you were my neighbors. So we were gaining traction with a group of consumers who really liked what we were doing. And then we have this guy in California. That's a real Honest Tea tattoo. He was really, what you call a customer for life, right? He really felt like there was something there. So then our challenge is, okay, we've got people who really like our product. And I'll be the first to acknowledge, we're not for everybody. If you like sweet drinks, you're not going to like Honest Tea. But if you're looking for an alternative, at the time, Honest Tea we had a monopoly. We were the only less sweet drink. And then, so we really started to grow. And our challenge then was, how do we get to more people besides just Whole Foods? So we went to all of the distributors, the beverage distributors who carried Snapple in Arizona. And this is kind of what we heard. Some would say it's not sweet enough. Others would say it's too expensive. Others would say it tastes like grass, or it's not flashy enough, or it needs to be an energy drink. There were all kinds of reasons we were told no. And we knew if we couldn't reach other stores, we weren't going to be in business. So we had to find other ways to get to market. And what we did was we put together a network, a patchwork of distributors that we called the C distributors. And in this case, C doesn't describe their quality. If I were describing their quality, they'd be more like D-. It just so happened that they all started with the letter C. So what happened? We went to the gourmet stores, and we said, we'd love you to carry this product. It's doing really well, like stores like Dean and DeLuca. And they say, well, we don't, how are you going to get it to us? And, well, why don't you talk to our cheese distributor? And so we got into the gourmet stores with the cheese distributors. Then I went to the delis. I went to, in Bethesda, there's a store called Bethesda Bagels. I said, we got to be there. He says, I don't work with a cheese distributor, but why don't you talk to my corned beef distributor? And sure enough, we started distributing through corned beef distributors. That got us to other delis. And then I tried to go to the supermarkets, and they say, well, we don't work with the corned beef guy or the cheese guy, but if you want to talk to my charcoal distributor, we can take your product. And sure enough, we started creating this presence. And eventually, we started getting enough shelf space that the beverage distributors started paying attention, and they started to return our calls. The challenge with beverage distributors are these are tough folks to deal with. They're really kind of territorial. Because every day they're fighting for shelf space. And so they have a little bit of prickly personalities. And I was trying to think about how I could illustrate that. I thought the best way to do it would actually be to share with you a voicemail from one of our beverage distributors that he left for one of our salespeople who's here. And I'm gonna apologize in advance. The language is a little crude, but it's for illustrative purposes, so we get,
Yo, Mike, this is Louie from Twisted Distributors. Look, all the things that you up, if you don't handle that that works for you, bro, you could take your Honest Tea and you could stick it up there and Kavanaugh's big. You understand what I'm saying? I'm telling you, your Honest Tea and that girl Judea.
Yeah. So anyway, you get the sense of it, but what do you say? You can't make that stuff up. But that was kind of what we needed to build a business. And actually, what's so impressive is that we managed to create a business that still worked for this guy, Louie. Like, he's somebody who's not going to be motivated by the fair trade tea gardens. He needed to be able to appreciate that he could make some money building this business. And so that's an important part of the equation. It's very easy to idealize a virtuous supply chain from fair trade tea garden to natural food store to healthy consumer. But if you don't get someone like Louie involved, it doesn't work and motivated. And so we were fortunate that economically the business worked, but we're also fortunate that we had people who were able to work with someone like Louie who could help sort of get past the coarse personality and understand this is really business. So for us, when we talk, and you'll see in the book, it is a comic book. The only superheroes in this book are the salespeople who made it happen. And so I wanted to share with you all that we are very honored to have in the audience tonight Mike Pillione, the recipient. Stand up, Mike. Now, Mike was on the receiving end of that phone call, but you can see, this is what Mike knew what it took to build a business and to build it in New York City, the toughest, really the most competitive market in the world. And always, out there building the shelves, and you talk about scrappy and hardworking, the business would not be made without Mike and people like him who really got out every day and were willing to work with people like Louis and could build the business. So that's really at the core of how we've been able to grow. Okay, so what happened was we were growing, we were gaining access to new customers, then we would start getting approached by large national chains like Safeway, who would say, we like your product, we see how it's doing well in Whole Foods, we want to capture that customer, so we want a product in all of our stores. And the challenge is, I would say, well, I can cover all the stores in the Mid-Atlantic, because we have a distributor there. We can cover California, and Safeway would say, well, great, what about Chicago and Texas? And I didn't have an answer. We didn't have distribution there. And they'd say, well, when you get distribution, let us know, and we'll be happy to take your product. So we were at a really important decision point where we knew we had to find a partner who could help us meet the broader distribution. And so when Coca-Cola approached us, it made a lot of sense. And this is a slide that Coca-Cola shared with their board when they made the recommendation to invest in honesty. And they said, this was back in 2007, if you look at the 3 megatrends, not just the fads, but where is society headed, health and wellness, environmental consciousness, and social responsibility are all core directions where society is moving. And that little white triangle, that area where they all overlap, that's a mindset, that's an approach to business that we need to invest in. And an investment in honesty is an investment in that future. And if you look 5 years out or 6 years out, the standard for doing business will be that every company operates with a mindset of understanding their broader responsibilities and embraces those. And that's why they wanted to invest in honesty. So in 2008, Coca-Cola bought 40% of the company, and when we started to grow. But there's a few things that challenges that situation raises. The first is, well, what happens when you have a small, organic, fair trade company partnering with a large multinational, right? Doesn't that create a little bit of dissonance? And that's what we call entering into shades of gray. So, so what does that mean? Well, when I grew up in the Cold War, and in the Cold War, everything was very clear-cut. You had the good guys and the bad guys. You had the capitalists and the communists, and you sort of knew who was good and who wasn't good. And then there were, made in the USA was regarded as a really good thing, and versus at the time, made in Japan was not regarded as a mark of quality. And now, today, you've got made in the USA by a Japanese company with parts assembled in Mexico. Well, wait a minute, is that good or bad? Am I supporting American workers? Or I'm not sure. And then you've got locally grown organic, which everyone agrees is, a very positive way to support agriculture, versus the factory farm. But then again today, you go to Whole Foods and you might find organic asparagus that's been airshipped from a large-scale farm in Chile. Okay, well, it's organic, so I think that's good, but it's shipped on an airplane. That's got a terrible carbon footprint. So things are a little more complicated. And for us, we talk about sustainability. So that means we are dedicated, sustain means to nourish and to uphold. And yet we operate in a consumer economy. And consume means to devour and destroy. So automatically, when we have a mission-driven business operating in a consumer economy, we're living in a contradiction. And in my view, there's no such thing as a socially responsible company. It's really a matter of, we talk about it as a direction. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And the only business that isn't socially responsible is one that's not willing to be honest about the contradiction. The fact that, we're a company committed to sustainability. We sell a ton of single-serve packages. And ideally, all of them are recycled, but national recycling rates are around 33%. So that means 2/3 of our packages end up in landfill. But we're committed to organics, and we're committed to healthier diets. So there's a lot of contradictions that we live in. And like I say, for us, there's no one way to solve it except to try to be honest about it. And so we have a report we put out every year called Keeping It Honest, which is we disclose, what's going on, what's the life cycle analysis of the product, and this is on our website. And then we also rely on third parties to verify whether it's organic or fair trade. Don't just take our word for it. Let's make sure there's a paper trail to show that we've been inspected. I bet those terms. But what has been exciting for us to be partners with Coke is how we've taken the brand to scale. And that's where this sort of the next part of the story goes. What do we do? In the beginning was brewing. We initially tried to figure out how to brew the tea. And I would say to Barry, are you sure we're going to be able to make this much tea? Because we're using real tea leaves. Most bottled tea companies use a powder or syrup. They don't make it with real tea. And Barry, as he was dipping a tea bag, says, well, you just take this tea bag and you multiply times 10,000. How complicated could that be? Well, we found out. This was sort of some pictures from our first production runs where we had bags of tea and we'd dip them in water and the bags would break and we'd end up with an inch of sediment or inch and a half of sediment in the tea, and it just was not very pretty. And this is an actual picture. You can see over here the bags that were part of our first production runs. We would dunk them in the tanks. On a good day, we can make about 18,000 bottles of tea. And then we evolved to that tea basket over there, and that was better. We could get to about 60,000 bottles of tea in a day, and we'd only get sort of a half inch of sediment. But we're talking about scaling, get national distribution, so what's going to happen? Because some of the skeptics said, well, Coca-Cola is going to try to find a shortcut. They're going to try to make a powder or syrup and find a way to make the tea cheaply. But instead, we invested in these two different tea brewing systems. This one over on the left is a 3-story structure. I'm up on the top there in Northampton, Massachusetts that can make 500,000 bottles a day. And the same with the plant on the right, which is in California. And the product is better tasting, more consistent, better clarity, and it has just some little bit of sediment on the bottom, which we're comfortable with. Okay, so that's how we took the production to scale. What about innovation? Well, in 2006, I was making my kids' lunches. And my middle son said, "Hey, Dad, I know you sell healthy drinks to grown-ups, but how come you put really sugary drinks in my lunchbox?" And I looked, and I had one of these pouches that had 100 calories per pouch. And when you do the math on that, it's a 6.75-ounce pouch. That's more sugar per ounce than a can of soda. And that's what most people were putting in their lunchbox, their kids' lunchbox. And so it said, well, we better create a solution to this. And so we created a product called Honest Kids. 40 calories per pouch, organic ingredients. And it's just been under explosive growth. It's now more than a third of our business. And so initially when we made Honest Kids, we sweetened it only with cane sugar. But just this year, through Coca-Cola support, we managed to take out all the sugar. Now we sweeten it only with organic OU kosher white grape juice. And so nutritionally, that's the same. It's still 40 calories per pouch. But the difference is when a shopper picks it up, in this case a parent, picks up the box, and they read the label, the first thing they see instead of sugar is white grape juice. And the product has continued to grow over 35% a year for the past 3 years. So it's really been explosive. And in order to get that much organic OU kosher white grape juice, we had to fly rabbis to Turkey, and we had to fly them to Argentina for the harvest. But it's been a great innovation, and it's really had a big impact on the brand. And then our other innovations, we found ways to make our product into bigger bottles. We launched a line called Honest Fizz, a zero-calorie, naturally sweetened soda line. And then we've set up this fresh brew system, which we're now presenting to national restaurant chains so they can serve organic fair trade tea in their restaurants. All right, so then we got the innovation, we got production. What happens to, what does it look like in terms of growth? And so you can see all along the way we've been creating new innovations that have helped propel our growth. And for us, whether it's the first to make organic tea, fair trade tea, first to commercialize a lighter weight plastic, that's helped drive our growth. At the same time, we've had our share of failures, and we had a tea bag line that didn't work. We had a bottling plant that we lost a lot of money on. We had a brewed cacao drink called Honest Coca Nova. Anyone try that? No? No? That's why it didn't work. So we certainly had our share of failures along the way. But for us, the real way to build brand awareness was marketing. And in the beginning, all we did was give out samples. That was the way to build our marketing. But how do you scale that? If you want to cover the country, you can't give out samples to everyone. And we're actually delighted. Valerie from our team is here. Valerie somewhere? Yes, right here, our marketing team that does an amazing job connecting with consumers. But how do we do that on a national basis? And so we found different ways to do it. I'm going to share with you one of the fun ones that we've done called the National Honesty Index. So we set up these freestanding racks of tea, and we put up a sign saying $1 a bottle honor system. And then we just step back. There's no uniformed personnel, no visible cameras. We just want to see what happens. So before I show you the results, how honest do you think people are? What's the guess? What percent of people you think would put money in the box? 60, 80, 70. Okay, I'm gonna show you a video, and in addition to watching the results of the test, think about this as an advertising campaign. Think about this as a brand building campaign, and I'll show you what happened.